Do you have adult children that you unfortunately are still considering including in your retirement plan? What? What are you talking about, including my kids in my retirement plan? I mean, are there children in your life that you're about to step into retirement that are still getting financial assistance from you? Unfortunately, this is a very real reality for a percentage of our population in 2025. We have what we often refer to here as a K economy. Those that have been blessed to save and invest in assets that appreciate over time, real estate, businesses, stocks, bonds, gold, silver, even Bitcoin, they have done very well the last 15 years or so. But many of our clients' children came about or started to earn money in a difficult time during the Great Recession almost 2 decades ago and never really were able to start investing on their own, unfortunately. So those folks are spending what they need every week from their paycheck they're earning. They're not saving actively for retirement. So unfortunately, they're getting financial assistance from their parents and or grandparents. And this is much more common than most people believe. So as you're about to step into retirement, could this put your retirement at risk? Absolutely. So in today's video, what we're going to do is cover how you can set financial boundaries with your children when it comes to things like financial support. All right. We're also going to talk about how to coordinate your retirement goals along with your family expectations. And then we're going to talk about doing these types of planning, how it will impact your estate and legacy planning after you're no longer here. So let's get started. So first topic we're going to talk about is setting boundaries for your adult children. Again, as I mentioned, it's a very real reality. About 1 in 5 retirees is helping a child or grandchild in the economy today. It's almost 20% or so. So that could be a significant burden on your retirement because here's a simple reality. No one is going to lend you money for your retirement. But grandkids can get student loans for college or higher education. Your kids can get loans against the equity in their home or what have you. But you need to set financial boundaries. We've talked and counseled many clients to not take money out of their retirement accounts to help a child. We have to also think about the tax implications of such a move. Let me tell you, we have a client, did everything right, saved enough for retirement. They had a child, an adult child that started a business. The business got into some trouble when the economy had some rough edges around COVID a few years ago. They decided they wanted to help their child out. Who wouldn't want to help their kid? So they started to pull money out of their account and give it to their child to try and shore up the business. But here's the problem. The child didn't learn the lesson of the short-term loan and kept going back to the well and asking for more. After the third distribution, our job is to question the client, why are you taking excessive distributions out of your retirement accounts? They let us know in on the story, and we were able to counsel them. They're not actually helping their child. Unfortunately, that business ended up going under. But we coached the client understanding how bankruptcy laws worked. Their child was not in any real danger or harm. They simply lost the business. The more money they threw into it, it wasn't going to save it because of the massive amount of debt this business had taken on. But the bankruptcy courts allowed the adult child to wipe that debt away under the rules of the law. And the child is now building to their own financial future. That is now in the rearview mirror. Our client now still has the assets safe and sound in their retirement accounts we're able to manage so that they can have the retirement they want to enjoy. But what if we didn't intercede? They would have pulled out, in this example, a couple of $100,000. And in this example, it was going to be from a tax-deferred account. So not only were they going to take money they'd saved their whole life to pay for their retirement to help this child, they were going to pay taxes on it, and it was going to push them into a higher tax bracket. So this is really important you understand. You've got to set reasonable boundaries for the financial assistance you're willing to give your kids or grandkids with your hard-earned saved retirement assets as you're walking into it. Because it's not just the asset drawdown, which is going to lower the probability you'll have money run your whole life, but it's tax implications, which also, by the way, creates Medicare penalties. I mean, there's so many things most people are not thinking of. So please put boundaries around how much financial assistance you're willing to give to your child. But it also works the other way. What if you're well endowed and have way more assets than you could ever spend down? And you want to start to pass those assets on to your children while you're alive. You want to see them enjoy them. You can gift away assets to your kids And most people do not understand there's no taxation to do so. In other words, you can give in 2025 $19,000. So if a married couple, I could give $38,000, me and my wife, to one of my adult children if I just wanted to give him cash. But what if I wanted to give him a house, a rental property? In other words, if I have so much of an abundance, I want to start passing businesses down. Most people don't know you can gift away up to the federal exempt amount, which is $15 million a person. So $30 million in assets could be gifted to children, and there's no tax due. We must file a gift tax return, because what happens is that amount we give over the $19,000, let's say we gave $30 million of real estate or something to someone in a great, it would be a great situation. All we have to do is file an exempt return, and now we're not going to have any assets that we own that are going to be exempt from the federal estate tax when we pass. But those assets have been given safely to the child. Now, I want to warn you, the child will not get a stepped-up cost basis on the assets that have been passed. So again, don't do this without professional help. The point being, you want to set boundaries whether you have the ability or you may harm yourself from gifting to your kids or grandkids. Now, let's talk about how do you coordinate your retirement goals with family expectations. You may have been helping your child with a few $1,000s here or there. Maybe they had their first child. Unfortunately, younger generations' divorce is a very high rate. And maybe you're helping a single child raise their kid by financial assistance or watching their kid. But you have retirement goals. Maybe you want to start traveling and you've been a babysitter for one of your grandkids. You need to set clear expectations with your adult child of what it's going to look like going forward so they don't rely upon you and then you suffer and don't live out the retirement of your dreams. You worked your whole life to get to this point, so please make sure you're having open communication with your children about setting clear expectations on how things are going to go forward for things like babysitting or even small financial help. Many of our clients today, we find, are still paying the cell phone bills for their children that are married and on their own. So there's a myriad of things that we can talk about here. But if you're guilty of that, look in the mirror and have a real conversation about how you're going to have that communication with your kids so that you can still meet all the goals of your retirement. Lastly, we want to talk about when you start doing these gifts and things like that, you could be impacting your estate plan and your legacy plan. In other words, you may be gifting assets to help a child out. For instance, we had a client, she had done really well for herself, more money than she's ever going to spend, and has multiple children, 5 in fact. But what happens is when you have this many kids, some of them are probably doing pretty well financially and some not so much. And this is exactly what happened. 2 of the children were financially not as well off as the other 3. Career paths were different, etc. She wanted to reach out and help these kids, but at a holiday gathering, a Thanksgiving one year, somehow that was brought up as the topic of discussion, and the other kids got quite upset. Mom had been giving substantial assets to one of the children in particular, which was hurting the inheritance all of them would eventually get. Again, topics of money can make for some ugly conversations, but if we're open and honest about it, we can typically solve this with proper proactive planning. So what do? We sat down and did what we call a family meeting. First, we met with the client individually, and then once we met with the children, it was decided that she would separate her accounts, and each one would have a single beneficiary, all 5 kids. And what we did is we simply changed the dollar amounts in each of the accounts, prorated by the help she'd already given to the 2 particular children. So one had a much smaller amount in the account that would pass to them. So now we had single beneficiaries on each of the accounts. They were all managed identically for the same growth rate, etc. But the child that never asked for any help account was going to be a bigger amount. The client thought this was the fairest way to pass the assets on. I'm not saying you have to do that, but again, thinking this through, having proper planning can really have a lot easier transition when you're no longer here. Because I can tell you, no matter how big or how small the estate is, when kids have to go clean up after mom and dad have passed and manage the estate, somebody's going to feel left out or feel like they didn't get their fair share. It creates animosity and ugliness between siblings that should never have to come to be if we only had the communication up front of what to expect, what assets are going to be passing. Again, you don't have to give dollar amounts, but you can let them know generally. And you can have a much easier time for your siblings to love one another as you probably intended as the inheritance passes on. Again, a lot of topics covered today, but if this is information that's helpful to you, please reply to the link below and in the comment section and let us know that, or reach out to us for any additional help you have. Please like and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you'll be notified of future videos. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you're looking for more content like this, make sure you check out these videos and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you'll be notified when we publish more content that will help you retire smart. Thanks for watching.